Hi everyone, today I'm going to do a little felting experiment because that's the next craft that I'm trying for this series on relaxing crafts for adults. And I went to the thrift store and I actually searched out, it's hard to find sweaters that are 100% wool, but I found a whole bunch. This one is merino. Now you have to be careful apparently because superwash wool doesn't felt well. I got a whole bunch of sweaters that are 100% wool of different varieties. I'm going to make a list of what they are, and then I'm going to throw them in the washing machine with hot water. Then I'm going to put them in the dryer on high heat, and I'll take them out and see what happens, and I will be back with the result because there's really not a whole lot to watch about this. But the idea is just to take, this is going to be kind of cool. The idea is to take them and just shrink them. And you're basically just shrinking them, and the fibers are going to rub against each other in the washing machine. And the friction and the heat and the dryer and the water, everything is going to combine to make it turn into a felt, just a tighter weave, and we'll see what happens. So I'll be back with the final result once I take everything out. Okay, so I've put these sweaters through the wash twice because the first time some of them didn't even look like they shrunk at all. After the second wash and the second high heat drying, this one is a tiny doll sweater. This is something that is not apparently a super wash, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. This says dry clean only. So that might be the key. If you get a sweater at the thrift store that says dry clean only, then that might be the best type because you see, as you see this, it is really like it's bound to itself. It's grabbing onto itself on the inside. So it really is starting to, it's like tightened up, the fibers are felting. So I think that this one is okay. I might actually put it through the laundry one more time. I just think it should feel stiffer. I think it's okay. The idea when you felt something, a sweater like this, is that you want it to not fray when you cut it. I think I will wash that again. Now, the second time that I wash these, I put a pair of jeans in the laundry with them. I'm going to do that again because that'll help the friction, that'll create more friction, and it will help the fibers shrink. All right, so the other ones, this one did shrink, kind of, and it is a lot smaller. I think it was larger to begin with. This one is 100% merino. Okay, now what I'm finding with the merino wool sweaters, and I'll find another one to show you. This one's a good example. Okay, this one is a cowl neck, but it doesn't look like it shrunk at all, which is very irritating because usually when I'm not trying to shrink a sweater is when they get shrunk, but when you try to shrink it, you want it to shrink, right? This is 100% extra fine merino wool. Now, I think what's going on, because there were 3 or 4 sweaters that said merino, I think that this is superwash merino wool. And it's not labeled that way, but it's very thin and it's not shrinking, it's not really getting felted. And superwash wool is kind of, what they do is they take the wool and they get rid of the extra little fibers that are on it. And that's what binds together when you felt the fibers. So you can wash it, it doesn't shrink because it's been treated and it's kind of smoother to begin with. So I have a feeling that this is superwash merino because it's not shrinking. So once again, I'm going to put that back in the laundry, and I think that this one is the same thing. This says pure merino wool. It shrunk a little bit. I mean, if I wanted to wear this and this had fit me to begin with, I would be mad because it is a little bit shrunken, but it's not shrunken enough that I would say, yes, this has been felted. Okay, so for all of these superwash wool that I suspect are superwash, I don't know if they actually are, I'm going to take a scrub brush and I'm going to rough them up before I wash them a third time because that might, you know, kind of release some extra fibers or something. It's going to make them fuzzy. It's gonna give the fibers something to grab onto. Maybe, I don't know if it's gonna work, but I thought why not, because otherwise I just have this sweater that I can't shrink and it might not be felted and I can't use it for what I wanted to use it for. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna rough all of the suspected superwash wool sweaters. I'm gonna do that and then I'm gonna wash them again. But I did want to show you, like, this one is lamb's wool and Angora. Okay, and it has 10% nylon, so I thought, oh, okay, I'll take a chance on it. This one did shrink, and it actually is, it looks felted. I don't think you can probably see that, but it seems like it's a lot denser. The fabric is denser. It does look like felt. So I think that one is okay. I'll just go ahead and wash that one again too. I don't care. This one was cashmere, and this was one of my sweaters that had a hole in it. And I can definitely feel that it is a little bit tighter, but it's not as dense as I thought it would be. Now, actually, this is interesting because I'm feeling this, and this part of it does feel like felt, but this part doesn't. This part right here is a lot denser, and this one still feels loose. Okay, so this one does have the capacity to felt because this part of it has really turned stiffer and thicker. So it could just be that it needs more friction around that. Back in the laundry. Okay, so I'm gonna do all these superwash, the ones that I think are superwash merino. I'm gonna rough them up with the brush. I'm gonna put them back in. I'll put them back in for another, I think I've been putting them in for an hour on hot water and then an hour on high heat. We'll see what happens. I'll come back with a report later. So I've taken everything out of the dryer. After the third round, I think I should probably stop because some of these aren't even felted at all. Some are doing pretty well. This one is, let's see, this one is the lamb's wool and Angora, and it's felted pretty well. I feel like it is probably about as thick as it's going to get, and it just feels firmer, it's tighter, it's not as loose and stretchy as it was. I might want to mess with this one. I think I'm going to put this in the mess with this one pile because I am going to take this one step further and boil some of these to do some boiled wool, and I'll see what happens with that. This is kind of fun doing all this stuff, I have to say. I've never thought I was going to be boiling sweaters. I don't know if that's going to help because I think usually boiled wool you have to use wool that hasn't been carded and that kind of thing. I don't know. We'll find out. Now this is the one that turned into the little baby toddler sweater. This used to be human adult size, okay? It's not anymore. So this one is fine. And I think that if I cut this up, it looks like felt. If I cut it, it's not going to ravel. That's the whole point of felting this stuff, is that you can cut the fabric and it won't ravel and it won't fray. So I think this one is fine. It's a cute pattern. I might actually list some of these in my Etsy shop, in the supply shop. We'll see. So basically the ones that are, the ones that work the best were the lamb's wool and Angora. And even the ones, these two, this one also felted pretty well. It felted very nicely, actually. I can tell that if I cut this apart, it's going to be fine. But this does have 10% nylon in it. So even if there is a little bit of synthetic, as long as it's lamb's wool or Angora, that seems to be the safest bet. The merino, it could be the superwash. So you have to be careful about that because that's not going to work. And this one is just fine. The other lamb's wool and Angora is fine. It also has 10% nylon. So the little bit of the synthetic doesn't seem to make a difference, but the merino wool, if it's superwash, it's not going to shrink and you're not going to be happy with the result. So I will do another video once I boil these. So that's going to be my project for this weekend, and we'll see what happens there. We'll find out. Give this video a thumbs up if you thought it was interesting, and go to the thrift store and find some lamb's wool sweaters. Lamb's wool and Angora, that's the best one, and cashmere works too, but the merino, watch out because it could be superwash. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.